have a bad attitude. Maybe I am angry inside. I've been through stuff, so I'm angry.
Yes, but it's not. This is not. Be quiet,
but
Tiffany.
everybody,
Be quiet.
That's what is
I'm
wrong
not
with
trying
you.
to act, but you're not.
Stop
it! I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself. Because nobody's going to take responsibility for you. You roll in your eyes and you act like this because you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before. You don't know where the hell I come from. You have no idea what I've been through. But I'm not a victim. I grow from it and I learn. Take responsibility for yourself.
There have literally been fire on the mountain. Run, run, run. And honestly, one of the things that is sparking all of this is Taylor Banks' documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you guys have seen the clips about it, I don't know. But I have a lot of reactions coming from Americans, and I want you guys to literally watch. First of all, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And credit belongs to the original creator of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing my videos, dropping super thanks, joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. So with that being said, let's go ahead. Let me roll out the clip for you guys so that you guys can see the reaction actually coming out and why people are actually voicing out on the documentary. And let me know in the comment section if it is okay, if it is not okay, what you feel about it, east, west, north, and south. I'll repeat this again. Credits to the original creators of every single clips and stitches I have in today's episode. For disclaimers, educational purposes only. Let's go watch and I'll be back with comments.
If you're wondering, like me, why Tyra would sit down for this anti-M interview knowing we got to talk about Shandi, we got to talk about Tiffany, we got to talk about a lot of things, J. Manuel, that I don't want to talk about. So why did she show up? Well, maybe she felt like she had to. My girl Mona at Extra interviewed the guys and got some of the backstory.
As for Nigel, something interesting that he said was that this documentary initially wasn't supposed to involve Tyra. It was actually a documentary about Jay Alexander, his life, his recovery, and all of that. And then it morphed into addressing all of the America's Next Top Model controversy. And then eventually Tyra signed on.
This started out as a documentary about Miss J, and all the guys were in it. And it morphed into a conversation about anti-M. And once they had a lot of that laid down, then, and this is classic journalism practice, you go to Tyra and say, look, we've talked to all these people and they've said all these things. You should probably come through because otherwise they are going to control your narrative. Sometimes in journalism, you say, hey, subject, I've talked to everybody around you, so you should probably come through and talk to me. Otherwise, they're telling your story for you. As a journalist, you're like, I'm publishing this with or without you. So for you, it's probably better if you come along. So when you're in a position like that, Tyra's like, yeah, this would look really bad if I wasn't there, and Jay and Miss J and all these people, the girls, are taking shots at me, so let me come in. Now, I don't know that Tyra really made it better for herself, but this is the calculation that got her into the chair. I don't think she wanted J. Manuel to be the lead voice in all this, but as bad as she looks out of this doc, do you think that she would look worse if she hadn't said anything?
Just so we're clear, documentaries like this are not intended to benefit any of these people. I would go as far as to bet my bottom dollar that they were not willing participants and they didn't want this documentary to actually air. Any good documentary is going to include all sides of a story. So although they probably didn't want the documentary to come out, they all knew that if they did not participate, that they couldn't do damage control, and all we would be left with is the truth. That is why in the documentary, Jay was going so hard to tell us that he tried to quit before the series actually came to an end, because he wanted to remove himself. And on Sherry Shepherd's show, he said this.
I was in the production office when we got word of what was going down. I was devastated in the moment. And what I'd like everyone to just think about for a minute, because Shandi says this in her interview, she said, someone said, hey, how about the guys come over? Now, as someone who worked on that show, I can tell you the girls couldn't plan the next 5 minutes of their lives. They were following a directive. So who is the someone? That's the question. I'll leave it out there. I kind of know roughly, but...
You say you were in the production room when it came up. And you said you know who it is roughly. So say their name. Or is this you still trying to protect yourself and the brand because you don't want to get canceled? And the same with Nigel. That is why he went out of his way to let us know that he is not fully white. Because he wanted to make sure that people didn't perceive him as just some white man who was participating in the oppression of black people, which he absolutely was, a white man participating in the oppression of black people. Jay very clearly articulated in the documentary that when they found him, he was told to find a white man. A white man. And that is who he found. The truth of the matter is that none of them, including Tyra, probably wanted this documentary to air or be recorded in the first place, because they all know that they actively participated in harming people. The only thing I will agree on with Tyra Banks is that times were different. And what was allowed back then, because people didn't say anything or turned a blind eye, is totally different now that we have the language and the understanding of these concepts. But that is not an excuse for all of the crazy things that they allowed to go on, including allowing people to play in blackface, Jay.
Oh, look, my hands were tied. I mean, I was not really involved on the production side. Well, see, at the time, it was okay to give girls eating disorders on national television. Now, now it's frowned upon. Look, I was also a victim. 25 people in that room. Not one of them asked me how I felt yelling at that girl, calling her a fat cow. At the end of the day ended. I didn't want to do these things. The producers made me do it.
So what was your role?
Executive producer.
Do you remember Shandi?
Who?
Shandi?
Oh, okay. I think I vaguely remember, but remember I wasn't really involved on the production side. Mm-hmm. You have to remember, this isn't what I wanted. This is what you guys wanted.
Well, we were like 10, so...
Yeah, and how is that my fault? I wanted to show the truth about modeling. So we created fake scenarios and made it harder. Back then, it was okay to change people's ethnicities for a picture. See, I did it when it was okay. And sometimes you have to show people the wrong way so they know the right way. I wasn't gaslighting. I was lighting the gas of greatness. And this was my show. This is my baby. This was not my show. I had a boss.
We're going to hold Tyra Banks accountable. We're also going to have to hold ourselves accountable, those of us who watched and supported that program. I know it's a hard thing. That's a hard pill to swallow. And a bunch of y'all will probably swipe away, but hear me out at least. Yes, Tyra Banks should be held accountable for a lot of the harm and the detriment that happened from America's Next Top Model. Some of the mean girlness and the cruelty that happened on that show. But she's not the only one to be held accountable. There were other people that contributed to that meanness. Every single one of those co-hosts, every single one. I guarantee you we can find a clip or a story about how they too were harmful, how they too ignored harm, how they too contributed to a culture of harm on that show. Yes, absolutely, Tyra Banks must be held accountable, but so must those co-hosts. So must those producers. So must those directors. So must those editors. So must those camera people who were filming a lot of this harm. And I know a bunch of people are going to jump into my comment section saying, oh, they were just doing their job, as if that's an excuse. As if that's an excuse. There was a culture created around that show. I remember being in university and how we would leave our doors open when America's Next Top Model would come on, so that when during the commercial breaks, we would come out and chat and giggle, and just as 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 20-year-olds, the same ages as some of those girls on the program, just as we would do. It became an event. It's wild because I remember raising some points then at my 18, 19, 20-year-old self, saying, I don't like this. This is stupid. To now watching it as a 41-year-old mother, it wasn't stupid. It was insidious. It was harmful. And we can say that now. I know culture has a lot of respect and a lot of love for Tyra Banks, but what she did was harmful. What she allowed to persist was harmful. Calling people who are size 6 plus size was harmful. And it contributed to the overall cultural view of girls' bodies. Girls' bodies. And it's okay for us to have an examination about that. It's okay for us to look at ourselves and say, dang, and I was right there watching it. I'm going to have to do some work. That's called maturity. It's okay to do that examination. It's okay to look at yourself and say, dang, and I supported it, and I watched every single week. What does that say about me, and how can I do better? That's called growth, and we need it, especially in these times. Anyway, there's a lot more that I could say, but I want to start there. I want to start at our own self-reflection and accountability, not to avoid accountability for the folks that were on the show, because they too must, at a macro level, they must be held accountable. But what does it say about us as viewers, as those of us who, during the time that the show was airing regularly, that we were watching it, and even though some of us were young and didn't know what we know now that we know better, how do we do better? How do we check the things within us that says, hey, you got that from a place that was not good. Let's erase that and replace it with something healthier. How do we do that? That's all I want to talk about. Okay, thanks, bye.
Tyra Banks, the only thing you brought to this documentary was you and this trench coat, okay? No accountability whatsoever. I understand when America's Next Top Model was a thing, that it was a different time, okay? But for you to come out here and say that we asked for this, the majority of the audience being 8, 9, 10 preteens, our frontal lobe wasn't even developed then, okay? The only thing that we could internalize was like, these are some pretty girls on our TV screens. Like, we had no idea what was actually going on. Like, the fact that you had these girls doing blackface, and then for you to say, well, yeah, that was wrong, but it was a different time. Like, girl, there was no time for any of those girls to be doing blackface. And when America's Next Top Model was a thing, this was back when reality TV was like reality, okay? It wasn't that made up fake stuff they do today, okay? If you watch this back as an adult, like Tyra Banks, you gotta pay for your crimes. Like,
so Tyra Banks and her old show is back in the news, and not for a good reason. So the new Netflix documentary highlights America's Next Top Model, which aired over 25 years ago. And in this documentary, they're pretty much dissecting the show, how it was produced, how they exploited models, and just the way that things were done at the time that this TV show was in production. And you have former contestants who are coming out saying, I was exploited, it was a horrible experience, I'm not happy with it. And pretty much Tyra's getting canceled left, right, and center by everybody online. Maybe I'm just an insensitive prick, I don't know, but I feel differently. My perspective is, who cares? Why are we dissecting a show that was produced over 20 years ago when culturally everything was different? Back in the early 2000s, we were not woke. We were not overly sensitive about every single thing. We could tell jokes and nobody cried about it. Because if you're going to judge this show for being too inappropriate for its time, then are we going to judge every other show the same way? Let's not forget that at the same time that this show was airing, Jerry Springer was still hot and popping. Are we going to exhume Jerry's corpse and cancel him too? Or what about American Idol? A show that I used to love. And by the way, that show wasn't just great because Kelly Clarkson is a great singer. That show was great and successful because people wanted to know, what is the British guy going to say next? And who's he going to humiliate next?
I find it odd that you can come in here and sing to us, but that was painful.
And if you notice nowadays, they don't show bad auditions any longer. Because they realize that showing bad auditions only humiliates the people who are going on the show who think that they're good singers and then realizing on national TV that they're not. Maybe too insensitive. But at the time, it was the culture. Nobody cared. We laughed. We enjoyed it. But since then, things have changed, which is why TV is produced differently today. So my question is, why are we dissecting this show and making it seem as though they were doing something unheard of at a time when TV was just produced in a certain way. And nobody had a problem with it because it was the culture back then. But now in 2026, woke time, everything is, you gotta get canceled. I mean, even Whoopi Goldberg of The View is apologizing for laughing at an old clip back in the day when it first aired.
In this documentary, there's a clip from our show where I have showed the ladies this thing. Now, this was, to me, one of the funniest things I had ever seen in my life. The girl is walking. I do, I know, but I wanted to apologize because there's a person who got knocked off there, and her name is Alexandria Underwood from Cycle 14. I'm sorry I laughed at this.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry that I laughed at something that was funny. My bad. I mean, people, we gotta stop. Personally, I miss these days. I said it.
First of all, guillotine for everybody involved. I thought this was a cheating scandal. It hit me like the Twin Towers. I was devastated only to find out it was S.A. Guillotine recording it, editing it, and then Tyra taking credit for everything else on the show, saying she's a great editor and she's involved in the creative. But then when it's time to take responsibility for Shandi, she hits us with I wasn't in charge of storytelling, girl boo, by trench coat, justice for Shandi next. Telling her she had to close her gap in order to win, jail. I hate that they took that uniqueness from her and then years later told another contestant they wanted to widen the gap. Diabolical. Obviously still a gorgeous girl either way, but I hate they told her that she needed to permanently change her teeth in order to make it in the industry. Next, jail ×2, because what do you mean you had her do a photo shoot where she was capped in the head, knowing her mother had been a victim of similar violence and was permanently disabled because of that? Jail. Next, first of all, please post the eyebrow tutorial ASAP. Also, it's crazy that this is what they consider big back then. I know this was 20 plus years ago, but even then people were saying that pushing a size 000 and having these girls stay teeny tiny by surviving off of cigarettes and ice cubes should stop. Next, Miss J. Number one, this interview took me out. So much was spoken in the unspoken. I know they wanted to call the producers and the higher ups everything but a child of God. And of course, it is hard to see Miss J like this. But one thing about it, Miss J, come on, silk press. Okay, hair done, inch trim. This is what I want to see. And you will walk again. And more importantly, no matter what, you will always be the queen of the runway, Miss J. What did y'all used to say back then? Fierce. And Tyra, I know you thought you gagged with this. And I will say, I was definitely taken aback. I mean, I guess they're trying to reheat these nachos because the last truly popular season was well over 10 years ago. I'm talking well over, like by 2010, it was pretty much a wrap for the majority of the audience members on this show. So I guess now they're going to bring it back. But first, Miss Trenchcoat, okay, you and your beautiful, gorgeous, very laid, very well done lace front, you will have to be put on trial for your war crimes.
I've been waiting for somebody to have a more nuanced take on the America's Next Top Model documentary, but I haven't seen one yet, so I guess I have to be the bad guy. So I want to say this right now. If you don't understand nuance, if you are someone who's very black and white, you can go ahead and head out because you're not going to like my take and I'm not going to care. And I have some disclaimers before I even get into it because I want to address the fact that if your opinion or your take automatically has you body shaming Tyra, making fun of her looks, or Miss J or Jay Manuel or Nigel or anything like that, and y'all are making fun of how they look now or talking about how they look now, how does that make you any different than them? So if that's your immediate opinion, I can't hear anything you have to say after that because you're literally just like them. And also, a lot of y'all have built your entire platforms off of hate trains. A lot of y'all have built your entire platforms off of making fun of people and talking about other people because in my opinion, there's nothing interesting about yourself. So what makes you any different than them? In my opinion, nothing. I also want to add that I am a model. I have been modeling for about 5 years. I've done a lot of commercial work. I don't want to say the names because I don't want to insert them into this mess. But I just have a lot of experience of the industry and what it's actually like and not what y'all are saying it is to be honest. I also have been watching America's Next Top Model since it dropped. I am a 90s baby. I'm 28. I was there. I remember the first premiere of the episode. It was on my big box TV. We didn't have flat screens. We had a box TV, and I remember, and I watched all the way up until like boys started coming on the show. That's when I kind of fell off. No shade. And it wasn't because of the boys, honestly. I think just during the time too, that's when social media also became a part of the show. But social media was also such a huge part of our lives that during the time when social media kind of dropped and really started having motion as far as being able to book yourself, you didn't really need the industry anymore. And that's the only thing I could say that is different about the modeling industry now than what it was, is that now you don't, like, the industry can't really gatekeep you how you used to. You can just pop out, and if you can get the people on social media and like your own audience, you can build your own motion. But that is the only thing that I can say is different about modeling now. Other than that, the modeling industry has not changed a lick. It is still incredibly racist. It is still incredibly misogynistic. It is still incredibly like just body shaming, and that every girl has to be so skinny, and everybody's saying like, oh, heroin chic is back, 2000 skinny is back. it never left. I don't know what y'all are talking about. I don't know if y'all been in a different industry than I've been these past 5 years. So let me know so I can come join that one. Because the industry, the only thing that has changed the industry is social media, and that we could take it in our own hands. That's the only thing that I think is different. Everything else is still the same kind of disgusting. And to be honest, the only thing that I can say is now they just don't say the quiet part out loud. And I think that's why the show seems so jarring, especially to watch. Like with, I really also like the way that Tyra said in a 2020 lens, because she spoke facts with that. It's different to look at now. I think the reason why America's Next Top Model seems so jarring in the 2020 lens is because they were saying the quiet part out loud. Like, for example, they were just telling people straight up. And I think that's also a problem, is people really don't understand the modeling industry, and what it takes to be a model is quite disgusting. It really is the ugly truth. It really is the thing that nobody wants to hear. And it's unfortunate because you wish that would be changed. You wish it would move with the times. But what y'all gotta understand is when you have such a highly competitive industry like this, even more competitive now that social media is in the game, everybody, when I tell you everybody and their mama is a model now, everybody's a model now. So when you have an industry that has so many people, it's such a high barrier to entry to get to the level that everybody wants to be at. You have people who are willing to do anything for it. Anything for it. Like, when I tell you, you wouldn't believe. But we're seeing that now because I feel like with all the truth have just been coming out over these past few years. I'm not saying that it's right. A lot of it is wrong as fuck. But you have people, when you got somebody who's willing to do the wrong thing just to get the job, they're going to go with them. And not, that's just what it is. It sucks, but it's what it is. I'm not trying to absolve Tyra or any other of the judges of what they did. Did they take it too far? Absolutely. Did they do things to humiliate and bully those girls? Absolutely. But that's what happens in the industry. And I think I wasn't a model in the 90s. I would love to hear more of the models in the 90s opinions. But I think during the time, they were hearing a lot of their stuff to their face. Like I said before, nobody's saying the quiet part out loud anymore. So instead of just saying, hey, we already have too many black girls, they just won't book you. Instead of saying we don't want plus size models, they just won't book you. The proof is in who they book. You can tell, even just with the runway season that just passed. The runway shows were mostly white, tall, and skinny. It has not changed. So I'm tired of everybody pretending like now we're in this new era of wokeness, because we're not. Sorry. And like I said, this is not to validate of anything of what happens. I'm just saying the anger is just feeling so selective. And also too, because during the time, this is a reality TV show that we're talking about. And this was not the only bad show at the time. So why is this show the only one receiving smoke? And also, why is Tyra the only one receiving smoke? I genuinely feel like she's being scapegoated. Even though, yes, she was a villain, but they were all the villain. 2000s and 90s, like that was the villain era. Everybody in charge of anything was the villain. And we're all seeing that come out now. Like, let's talk about it. Like, the race swapping, obviously racist. But you want to know another popular show that was really popular at the exact same time? Family Guy, racist as fuck. American Dad, racist as fuck. Also, not to like shows like For the Love of Ray J and all those dating shows were all so dehumanizing and embarrassing and humiliating for women. So like that America's Next Top Model was not the only show that profited off of the bullying and humiliation of women. And I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm just saying that doesn't make her the only villain. And that's why I understand why she's not accepting full accountability, because it's just like, that's what it was. And I feel like only people who are alive during that time can kind of look at it and being like, that sucked. Like, but now we know better now to not do that again. Like, I also want to give another example of when they portrayed homeless people. There was an entire show. I can't remember the name of it. Let me know if you remember. I'll have to look it up. There was an entire show where rich people would switch places with poor people for a week. And then we would see how the poor person lived as a rich person for a week and how the rich person lived as a poor person. How was that any different? Also, Fear Factor, where they also would have people suspended over really high places. They would have people eating bugs, swimming with eels and all type of insects. Where's their documentary? Also too, why are we acting like a reality TV show now is any better? Maybe they're not saying the quiet part out loud, but like, for example, on Love Island, when they'll book black models, but then they will book males who don't like black women. But we're so woke now, like, come on. Also, can we talk about how there's still no plus size representation? And honestly and truly, I feel like they try to finesse and be like, oh, we got this plus size model, but it's not by coincidence that plus size model be hourglass shaped. But nobody wants to talk about that. Y'all just want to talk about how Tyra's the problem, Tyra's the problem, Tyra's the problem. But like, Tyra didn't invent body shaming. Tyra didn't invent racism. She didn't invent fat phobia. Like, I think something Tyra did without even realizing was blow a hole wide open on what the industry actually is. Like, I think she showed the ugliest truth that nobody wants to talk about. And obviously, because it was a show, it was a highly dramatic, it was highly like everything to the extremes. But stuff do really be that extreme in this industry. People will sit you down in a chair, burn your hair off, and send you home for free. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. Makeup artists still don't know how to do black girls' makeup. They still don't know how to do black girls' hair. So they opt for the bald models, or they just don't book us. That was also a huge part of Ebony's story, by the way, which I'm also noticing nobody's talking about. But I'm going to talk about it in a whole other video because I got a lot to say about that. I also want to speak on Kenya and Shandi, which honestly, Shandi's story really broke my heart. I had no idea that that was the situation, and she clearly got a bad edit, which honestly, all the producers involved are to blame. But also, too, why is nobody blaming I just feel like there were so many people there in that moment, not just the producers, not just the women who, even though we're your competition, we're still women around you, seeing you drunk with those other men did nothing. And also, everybody's blaming they're blaming Shandi, they're blaming the producers, they're blaming Tyra, but where's this man's name? Can we talk about the man who was the rapist? Oh. Can we talk about the other men who were probably with him and knew him, or at the end of the day were man and didn't step in to protect the women? Oh. No, we want to blame Tyra. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry. However, I do think they were wrong for airing it and not sending that man straight to jail. Let me say that right there. Niggas should have been in jail right there. I think Tyra and America's Next Top Model as a whole is a mirror and a reflection of everything that has been going in the modeling industry that people really don't want to see and or talk about. This video is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna have a part 2 just about my deeper take on the models, because I really didn't get to touch on them how I liked. But just as a model, I realized by year 2 of modeling, this is what Tyra was talking about. I remember saying to myself, like, wow, this is what that show was talking about. They were spot on. I'm so sorry. Like, it's wrong, but it's the truth. And I'll see you on part 2 because I got more to say. Okay, so here's part 2 of my thoughts on the America's Next Top Model documentary. If you haven't already watched part 1, go ahead. It's really long, but I made points. And in this video, I really want to dig in deeper on the models. And before I get started, I really want to say that I'm not victim blaming. I believe their stories, and everyone has their own experience on the show, which is the truth. We all watched it happen. But I also want to take it back to my point in my last video where I said Tyra exposed the industry in a way that I don't even think that she understood herself. Like, I think that she put a light of visibility that we've never seen before, not just on how people in casting agencies, how the industry acts themselves, but also how the models play into it as well. First, I do want to acknowledge Shandi's and Kenya's story. I touched it a little bit in the last video, but I do want to dig deeper into it because I think that sexual assault runs rampant in this industry and nobody talks about it. More people are to blame for what happened to Shandi and Kenya than just Tyra and the production. Like, when I tell you there were so many people there, like in Shandi's situation, there were so many other models there, so many people in the production team there. Also, all the men that were there, nobody decided to be a man and stand up and protect a woman. Like, this is how I know we still operate under such a patriarchal society, because why is everybody putting all the blame on Tyra, everybody putting all the blame on production? Not saying that they're not at fault, but all the blame's going on them. Why is nobody mentioning the rapist's name? His name's Eric, by the way, if anybody cared. Where's his smoke? Oh. And when it comes to Kenya's story, like, I get why she did what she did, but I also get why Tyra said what she said, and I'm going to explain that. Because I personally have been in a very similar situation where there was somebody feeling up on me, touching up on me on set, and making it very obvious, and everyone else was around just kind of laughing it off, and I'm just like, I don't want this. Also, too, like, I was a baby model. This was my first year. I think this was only like my 6th or 7th photo shoot. And I just did not know what to do. But all I knew was I didn't want to be the problem, especially in my first year of modeling. I was so focused on not being the problem. I didn't want to be seen as the mean girl. I didn't want to be seen as a diva. So I just joked it off and, like, ran away from him. And that's why I get what Tyra said, what she said. Because it's just like, some models do that. Like, y'all don't know because y'all don't be in the industry. And I just feel like whatever model's choice she decides, like, that's valid. Kenya was valid in standing up and being like, no. Like, I wish I had the strength at the time. Like, now I would be like, no, fuck that. But I wish I had the strength at the time to be like, no, and not put my dreams and, like, the things that I wanted for myself over my own well-being. But I understand why models do that, because sometimes when you work so hard to get into these spaces, especially as a Black model, you don't want to ruin it. You don't want to ruin it. So I get why Kenya did what she did, but I get why Tyra said what she said, because sometimes you do gotta play it. Like, you don't have to, but sometimes you just do, and sometimes I have. So, like, I understand that. It doesn't make it right, but that's just the truth. And that's why also I don't get why all the smoke is on Tyra or on Kenya or anybody in this situation. Why isn't the smoke on the men? The smoke is never on the men, and that's what irritates me the most. Something I also want to talk about is how much modeling is a choice. And I'm not saying, this is why I'm saying I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying those models chose to be degraded. They chose to be disrespected, and especially they did not choose to be SA'd. But what I'm trying to say is, a lot of the models could have left. And I know that sounds harsh, but let's take it back to our icon. One of the iconic scenes that y'all replay all the time to this day is that one girl, she was wearing that green outfit, and she was talking to the judges at panel, and she was like, I can't take the pressure of it anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And before they got a word in, she walked off. I know y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. And also, so many other models have left. And that's why I also understand why in the documentary they only really put models in for the first couple cycles, because it's just like, after cycle 5, 6, 7, everybody watches America's Next Top Model, by the way, especially the people who applied to get on the show. So after it's 7 cycles, 8 cycles deep, you knew what you were getting into. You can't tell me that you didn't. I'm so sorry. And that does not denounce anything that may have happened to you. But y'all saw the models get degraded, disrespected. Y'all saw them get essayed. And then y'all still went and applied for the show. Because you thought you were probably going to be different, right? And that's why I say Tyra shined a light of visibility that I don't even think that she meant to, because I definitely feel like when you just have an industry of models who are willing to do anything for it, y'all aren't going to speak up for the little guy. Y'all aren't going to speak up and say, hey, this is wrong, because you want it for yourself. So a lot of models will play and try to be quiet about things and try to be the good guy and try to keep calm and keep the cool and not have any drama. But then nobody cares about the victims because y'all want it so bad. And I'm not saying it's y'all fault. I'm just saying everybody has a part to play. And that's why nobody was taking accountability at the time. And nobody is still taking accountability, because it's just like, y'all all fucked up. Everybody who had a part to play in it fucked up. So let's take it deeper into the show. The show wasn't just panel. The show wasn't just entirely panel, entirely the judges mocking the models and telling them bad things about themselves. Like, it was also a lot of confessionals of the models talking about each other. It was also a lot of clips of the drama in the house. That was a majority of the show, of the drama in the house. And I know production egg stuff on, but like, where's your discernment as a model to, like, you don't have to say that. You didn't have to call another model fat. You didn't have to talk about another model's religion or what she believed in. Y'all didn't have to slut shame each other. Like, y'all said crazy stuff to each other as well. Where is that accountability? Because also, maybe if there's something in your contract where you had to say everything the producers told you, but I don't believe you because this is a reality TV show. I blame the producers as far as, like, I think it's a lot more deeper than people think, and thus the producers choose people who are like oil and water on the show so they know they'll get that reaction. Like, even in the documentary, how they put, like, I don't know if this was in the documentary, it might have just been a clip I saw, but how one of the models was like an atheist and another one of the models was like really religious. Don't think that that was by mistake. They put them two people in that show together and they knew that they were going to go at it, and that's how they choose. But at the same time, it's just like, y'all also decide to play into it because y'all wanted to win the competition so bad. Did y'all not? That's why I'm not denouncing anyone's bad experience, but let's not act like models didn't have good experiences on the show either. One of my favorite models on the show, I think her name's Naima. She might have been on the Petite season. Not only was she gorgeous, but I just remember her being very calm, cool, and collected, not really talking about other people, not really getting into the mess. And that's what made me realize, like, oh, y'all be playing into it. Like, y'all don't have to do all that. You chose to. I also saw another model just had to do an interview. Her name's Eve, probably the most gorgeous. If y'all remember, like, the gorgeous light skin who had the spider on her hand, iconic shot. And she was like, they were talking about the stories, and she was like, yeah, those were all awful stories, but that wasn't my experience. She had a good experience. So it's just like, the show wasn't all bad. It really wasn't, or it wouldn't have had the amount of viewers and amount of fandom that it had. And the last thing I think this show put visibility on is how people will hate on you once you start to rise to the top. The way models, I think that's what also like caused a lot of drama within themselves and the models and within each other, because once a model started to rise to the top, her name kept getting picked first. You notice all the other girls starting to get mad. They talk about her in confessionals, like, why is she always getting picked? I don't understand. I'm better than her. I'm like, let's not act like y'all didn't play into it either. Also, as a model, I can say that is so real. Like, when I tell you Tyra just showed things, I don't even think she meant to show, because that is so real. The way when you keep getting booked for jobs, like when you're around a bunch of people who want the same things you want and you're getting them and they're not, the hating that comes with that is just so unexpected. It's crazy. So I get why Tyra's not accepting accountability. I get why neither Nigel or any of the judges are accepting accountability, because everybody had a role to play. The last thing I want to touch on is the only thing that I didn't know was that Tyra did Nigel and Jay and Miss J like that. I did not know she did her day ones like that. Honestly, I can't save her from that. That's the only thing I can't save her from. That was really sick. I really do hope that they can talk someday though. But what I really think it is that, you know, when people do so many things wrong and they kind of know they did it wrong, but like they just choose to ignore it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I remember having a friend like that who was like wrong all the time and doing stuff wrong, but she would just ignore it and wait for like other people to address it. I just feel like Tyra is just like not ready to address what she did wrong, because everything else is gonna tumble down. I think there's an ego death right around the corner for her. And that's why too, I think that's why Miss J has so much grace when he was like, Tyra hasn't spoken to me, not yet, because it's coming. Like, it's coming for her. She can't ignore that. It's around the corner. That's something they have to deal with in between themselves. But what I can end this off with is nobody is fully to blame for that show, because everybody is fully to blame. And that's why there's no one person taking accountability, because they all had a part to play in that evil nonsense. And that's that. And I think a lot of people speaking on it are like younger Gen Z, because y'all weren't there, so y'all just don't understand it. But that it's way deeper than just Tyra. I'm sorry, y'all can't scapegoat her. I won't let y'all. Sorry.
Most depressing thing that I took away from the America's Next Top Model documentary is Shandi's still working at the same freaking Walgreens. Totally depressing. Like, her entire story, so freaking sad. But, you know, she's a survivor at the end of the day.
How are you going to kind of base the entire episode and name it after her cheating when she comes out to, claim her own story, her story where she was quite literally sexually assaulted on live TV? And not Tyra coming around, trying to bring up, oh, you know what? I always tell my man not to cheat on me, etc., etc. We have to learn how to fight against our carnal desires, while simultaneously setting these young women up for failure and, accidents and horrible things. Now, if it's one thing that I also took away from the documentary is the fact that the modeling industry didn't help them do shit for themselves. It was so inspiring hearing these girls talk about the different ventures that they went into in life that didn't involve the snooty, very self-centered industry of, beauty and modeling. Also, what do you guys think about Jay and him essentially being a hypocrite, saying that he had creative control one second and the next saying, oh my God, I don't know what happened when, he felt he was being thrown under the bus. But that's just something I'm throwing to you guys as a question. People have said that, Tyra's colorism wasn't touched on in this documentary. What do you guys think of that? Comment down below if you've watched this or not. And yeah, see you guys in my next episode.
Here is one of the biggest stories that makes me believe that Tyra is a supervillain. Shandi's story broke my heart for a number of reasons. One, when I originally watched it as a tween, you just think, oh, she made a mistake, she cheated on her boyfriend. But then now getting all of this context on how much they were drinking, the fact that she was blacked out and she doesn't remember anything, the fact that she views this as SA because she wasn't able to consent and they filmed everything, absolutely villainous. Then this is a show, right? So Tyra comes in the next day. She has this fake story about having a Milano boyfriend and then he cheated on her and she wasn't tolerating that, just to throw the whole situation back in Shandi's face. Shandi tells Tyra everything that she's been through since the show. Tyra invites her back on the show to relive the humiliation, even though she said she's never seen the footage and doesn't want to see the footage. And then she's all up in her face like, why aren't you watching? Villainous. And then to this day, she still works at Walgreens? This absolutely broke my heart.
Now, let me break it down for a lot of people that really did not understand how we got here and where we are here. Now, let's keep an up-to-date to this. Tyra Banks' documentary issues and the surrounding controversy based on the recent news on Netflix documentaries Reality Checked, Inside American Next Top Model, and reaction to it. And what is the documentary is? So the title is Reality Check, which is Inside American Next Top Model, a 3-part Netflix documentary. It revisits American Next Top Model, the long-running reality series created and hosted by Tyra Banks, examine its cultural impact and behind-the-scene environment. Now, what is the controversy? 1. Netflix paints a harsher picture of AMTM and Tyra, which is critics and viewers said the documentary highlights a toxic, explosive culture on the show with practices like body shaming, unsafe setup, racial insensitive, and emotional manipulation of contestants. Some of what prompts backlash include former contestants and judge reflect on how stressful and harmful aspects of the show were. Stories of scenarios that now look explosive in hindsight. Supporters see some cultural values in this conversation, but many critics argue the documentary decree up uncomfortable truths. Now, the Tyra Banks' role and the critics. They participated but limited her answer. Banks gave a real 4-4 interview for the documentaries. Her first major extent talked about AMTM in years. However, she refused to discuss certain tension, especially her falling out with former judge Jay Marwell. Directors confirmed she has no creative control over the finished documentary and that it would have been released with or without her participation. Now, reaction from her former crew and cast, which is Jay Manuel critics. Manuel, creative directors and long-term judge on AMTM, says the documentary version of the Tyra feels like prepared television and not the real person he knew. He and Banks have been entrenched for years, and Maxwell has said he's okay never speaking to her again. Other judge weigh in. Miss J. Alexander review Banks did not visit him after his 2022 stroke, a details that has been discussed publicly. Nigel Breaker and others also appear in the documentary, reflecting on the show legacy. Let's talk about the viewers and former contestants responding. Several former contestants have also spoken out. Eva Marcelia, who said she was shocked by the documentary revelation. Taffy Richardson, who accused Banks of bullying behavior on and off camera. And public reaction online ranged from critics of the documentaries from being too harsh to praise for final hiring uncomfortable truth, discussing around emotion, harms, explicitity, reality show, culture constants, and safety has treaded widely on social media. And here is the main point. Critics said Tyra hasn't fully owned up to the past action. The documentary exposed harmful aspects of ANTM that weren't previously acknowledged. Supporters and defendants argued some see ANTM as a product of time in early reality TV, and they say the documentary may not fairly contextualize the show on Tyra's intention. The documentary isn't about Tyra Banks. It sparkles a broader cultural reviews on how early reality TV shows treat participants and shaped beauty standard. Much of the debate is tied to how powerful representation and accountability intersected on a show that was groundbreaking in some ways, but problematic in other ways. And that is just a short summary and research that I literally have for you guys. I just want you guys to let me know what you think in the comment section. Did you watch the documentary? Did you not watch the documentary? Check it out on Netflix and let me know your honest thoughts in the comment section. But anyways, credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And guys, I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing my videos, and dropping commentaries, joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best, and thank you so much for staying stick and hook with me to the end of this video. And yes guys, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to say that, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys, I love you guys. Mwah.